What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sleep Atomic, and we're reviewing She-Hulk, Episode 8, Ribbit and Ribbit. And just going off the first thing that happens and the title, there's a guy named Leapfrog, and it kind of goes into almost what some people would be worried about with superheroes in the world and active superheroes instead of just like people in like cosplay or something. And this leapfrog character, I say that like colloquial, uh, he's not doing anything that he really should do, but it's something he wants to do because he he doesn't have any superpowers, but I guess he put in the money to get all his stuff and everything. Leapfrog thought out some names apparently, thought out some quips, found a patrol area, and then he's even got a lily pad secret base. I mean, he's got it all. He's putting it all into action, and then I think he was supposed to fall into like Iron Man, Batman in between there, kind of like vigilante style. And Leapfrog has imagined and dreamed everything up to the point of stopping crime. I don't think his like reflexes of responding is what it looks like because it kind of looks like he's like playing with these burglars in some parking lot he's trying to stop these guys in. The actual compare and contrast to execution and actual uh superhero business. He's more like a franchise instead of a individual contracted person. You can at least sense his like enthusiasm and how he's so captivated in the superhero lifestyle that he like went out of his way to like put all this stuff together. But it just kind of looks like he didn't like see certain things like that you wouldn't actually see from like a street view or just like a uh, audience view of seeing superheroes like in your city or your world. But Leapfrog or Eugene Patilio, um, he's from a pretty nice family, enough to where the head of GLK and H, Mr. Holloway, a pretty uh pricey firm to say the least and known law firm, is trying to keep them in pleasant moods just because of their rich client status. So as their son of the Petilios, I'll say it like that, Eugene takes advantage of this and wants compensation for emotional and like physical harm, and he's like saying all this, and he ends it. It's like, oh, Luke Jacobson made the suit, and we all know as the audience, this is a very important person to She-Hulk, as she does not want to walk around in oversized men's clothes. Being her stylist and uh, tailor, Jen's boss, Mr. Holloway, suggests that she just go uh, talk to Luke about whatever the leapfrog guy wants, because then they won't have to like go to trial or whatever they say. So She Hulk goes to talk to Luke, hopefully to resolve everything without having to go to court. And she just goes in kind of sheepishly, and Luke's just like very stubborn. And then eventually She Hulk matches that stubbornness. And after Luke's like, hey, I didn't do anything wrong, my work's impeccable, like, are you, are you kidding me right now? And pretty much because she has no other choice but to Luke, she's like letting this happen. So he rips the dress that he's working on at the time, which incidentally was hers. I thought it was just a random dress. And she's like, oh, and he's like, oh, and they're like, what? I'll see you in court. Which ends like the little teetering is like, oh, I don't really want to like step on his toes, like, and then kind of like underhandedly, to me, it kind of seems like Luke just like made her just do what was best for her. Maybe accidentally, maybe on purpose, maybe that's just what he brings out into people. And it's really highlighted now. And she storms out. She tries to do that slamming the door moment, but like he has like a little automatic door. She's like, "Hey, can you all right, now I'm storming out." Like after the I'll see you. We'll see you in court. This moment kind of teases out her like intensity, but it's like only like for the workplace. When it comes to like everything else, she's kind of like whatever it looks like at the time. So the case is being taken to court, and their next scene is at court, and it's just Luke and his attorney, Matt Murdock. He comes in like late, but very strong and ready. He's like, that's unrelated. Like, I don't know why she needs to figure out like what's happening with all of her, all of Luke's clients and everything. That's just like nosy. And then he like drops a factoid about the Sokovia Accords and how they aren't in action anymore. And then he starts talking about public expectation and treatment of superheroes in the public eye and like what might happen and how they can't do certain things like everyone. Pretty much it's just like a given. It's like, oh, people will attack them. Like, you can't just like have them come out to do this public thing and then, like, their enemies will come and blah blah blah. And that's why they can't come and testify about Luke's products. But it lets you in on it, these kinds of people. There's just people out there just expecting like attacks and enemies. They're just out there explaining to other people, just like, we have known and ongoing enemies, and it's something I regularly have to deal with, and it's specific to myself. When most of the time, like, people like don't like it when like they know someone doesn't like them. I just saw that as like this different and new tier of like people in society. But he complains like, am I not gonna get a new suit? And he like pulls out his old suit that got burnt. He's like, Matt Murdock's like, what fuel did you use? He's like, jet fuel. Yeah, it's probably gonna work better. He's like, Luke's like, that's not why I told you in the special instructions. Like, he's like, oh, judge is like, oh, okay, like, you voided the warranty pretty much by ignoring the instructions. Like, we all know about the instructions, right? Just the instructions for anything. You know, Matt, right? Yep. You know, right? She-Hulk, right? Right. You made it. And the judge is like, okay, if the plaintiff ignored the manufacturer's explicit instructions, the defendants absolved of all liability. I just like all these little like TV court rulings because it's like I'm pretty sure it's like it goes for a while if you hear like a court ruling like on the news. So it's like kind of a little special thing for like the audience, kind of like summarizing, and they kind of like make something up to kind of let you hear some lingo or some different lingo. I think it's just like certain words from the paperwork or whatever that they wouldn't actually just like recite to people. They probably have a list of stuff they already had ready and prepared one way or another, seeing how they like on this count, on that count, this count, this degree. But for the shows, they kind of have like a cool summarized phrase, like all ready for them. Like even if you didn't know or heard some of these words before, you could like infer what they at least do just by inflection and just the reactions of the people in the courtroom and everything. And this is all from a very small instance in the courtroom. It gives you some time to think about it while it's kind of like idly just showing you stuff, like concept wise or world building wise. I feel like this is where they had to do the most research and like interviews, make some calls to get it into the script and feel correct. At least it would be a very specific person or persons that would be able to provide it. Because the next part is a little like romancing between uh what will be Daredevil and She-Hulk, but she slowly finds out that Matt Murdock is Daredevil, and it's kind of like funny because I realize like certain things like oh yeah like Matt's from New York, Daredevil fights people in New York, and there'd be like a certain group of people that would meet Matt and like have the ability to puzzle things out, but wouldn't give away his secret. He doesn't seem like a like very uh paranoid or eccentric kind of person, so I figure he would purposely kind of like let people in on knowing that because it's kind of like obvious at that point if you like had met them that same day and then like later that night there's a Daredevil sighting in California. It's not like it's like oh there's a Daredevil sighting in New York, now there's one in Kentucky, now there's one in Minnesota, and now in Nevada, and then California. It was like New York, then LA. Just some like private kind of types trying to like keep everything private by suggestion even too. So it like extends out into the world and this Daredevil secret's kind of like another thing. And there's like that little veil of like he's blind. It's like, yeah, I mean, all right, but do you know how many people are like overtaken by Daredevil after he takes the lights out? But uh Leapfrog getting chased prompts this whole next action scene till pretty much the end of the episode. It starts as a car chase, but it wasn't a car chase, and it was Daredevil like on top of the car Leapfrog was riding, but he had contacted Jen, and then Jen showed up because it was actually pretty close to her, and it starts another chase between Daredevil and She-Hulk, which eventually turfs out to Jen pulling off Daredevil's helmet and realizing it's Matt, but not before using like a sonic clap or sonic boom thing, which I was thinking about for a second and realized was Daredevil's probably the only one that could kind of see the sonic boom that they have for like visual effect, but there probably wouldn't be an actual like a wave you can actually see coming from her hands. Because of Leapfrog, they have to team up to get Luke out from the clutches of Leapfrog because he's doing villainous stuff now. And that's why Matt was trying to track Leapfrog down and like find where Luke was. They eventually find the lily pad with a friggin' neon sign lighting it up and signaling where it's at. And then we get a little taste of what kind of action scene Daredevil has regularly in his show, which is like stealth and like incredible like brutality. He doesn't like beat anyone down, but there's some pretty like fierce hits that kind of make you wince. Like you see his batons and he like nails someone in the head, and then like the fact that he's probably pretty strong, just the way that he's like leaping and like uh just kind of vaulting around with his arms and legs. There's like one hit before She Hulk shows up that just seemed like it was a lot harder than the rest of them. They eventually take out the goons or the henchmen. I think they ended up on goons and rescue Luke, and the police come and everything. Luke forgives She Hulk and is back to helping her and them being in a working relationship. And then Matt and Jen end the night with each other at Jen's place. And eventually, Matt does the walk of shame, as people call it, even though he's very pleasant and there's nothing shameful about it, which is good for them. I guess Jen knew it was only a one night thing because he was going to fly back home the next day. And they only really had enough chemistry between them for the amount of time Matt Murdock was on screen. It wasn't like anything sweltering to where you could be like, oh, like maybe I should like look out for this next time, like just in case. It was just like they meet, something tangles them together, and then they want to make it memorable. There's nothing story wise like tying it all together and making it look believable or anything like that. And then the next part, it kind of like has you like swept forward almost as much as She-Hulk because there's the gala, which is only like seconds at a time. It's like, oh, the she comes in, she sees her parents. There's people taking pictures of her. There's the banquet. She's on stage. She's getting congratulated. And then all of a sudden, the intelligentsia's messing with her, and then she gets boy Hulk mad. She's roaring, and all of a sudden, there's these in superhuman guns trained on her. And then she realizes, I guess she messed up, maybe. And then the episode's over. For me, it was like so rushed. Like I'm not sure what happened there, but I guess we'll see next episode. She was almost doing like commentary for the writers before the gala thing happens because she's like, it's the next episode's the finale. He's like, oh wow, what's gonna happen? Like, you can definitely tell like where all the plot breaks are. They like don't leak together like at all. Like it's just like something unique to She-Hulk. It kind of goes with her like dealing with stuff and like letting things go instead of like the Hulk. Like I talked about how the Hulk's kind of like not really dealing with stuff. He like hides himself away and everything. He like and She Hulk's like, oh okay, yeah, you do that, but I have to deal with this every day as a woman, and how she like doesn't like hide herself away from society or anything to deal with it. Hulk's still like figuring himself out, like turning over like whatever it is in his head. So like it will go on, like kind of like leak over into other stuff, but it could just be the same kind of like thought process for something else that was never completed or may not be completed. And we just think it's just like a ongoing like plot point. But it's really nice, like it's done and now we're on to the next thing. Because it just confused me because she never really had like a, oh, like these people are after him. Like the only thing I thought was like, oh, like there's like always like these people like not too far away to like defend people from She Hulk, but she never really had a problem like strength wise, like controlling that and everything. Even now thinking back, even if the Wrecking Crew was like a plant for them to like see how she's dealing with stuff like that, I think besides throwing that one person up into the sky was pretty well handled. Man, now I'm just thinking about all the people that like was like hurled into the sky or like fell. There's Daredevil, but he's gracefully like dancing around like a circus act. But then Leapfrog jumps out the window and like ends up on a gurney later. There's Mr. Immortal like throwing himself out the window and falling onto that little security car. That happens to almost like every other like villain or like adversary like she's like up against that's actually like physically like interacting with her. It's almost like the like hands getting cut off in a different movie franchise. The last episode of this season is called Whose Show Is This? So we'll get to see how they wrap everything up. I mean, if they do, it was kind of set up like one of those ongoing things that should have went for more than 9 episodes. So maybe that's what the title's about. But this was Sleep Atomic, and I'm Alistair. If no one's told you yet, you look good in this show.